All right. Let's, we're going to give each of you we're going to start with our usual question of giving us a brief biography of yourself and what in your experience leads you to run for office. If we could if we could start with Jason.
Yeah, cool. My name is Jason Beebe. I'm the current mayor of Prineville, Oregon, and I'm a veteran. And that's what led me into politics, is serving while I was overseas in 2009 and 10, serving for the Oregon Army National Guard. I started studying the Constitution, and by no way am I a constitutional scholar, but it got me interested in politics. So when I came home in 2010, ran for mayor of Prineville and lost, but I was later, a few months later, appointed to an empty seat. And I've been on the Prineville City Council now for 11 and a half years. Most recently, the last little over a year as mayor. But I'm a husband, a father, grandfather, veteran, lifelong resident of Oregon. And I just want to give back to our state and put the power back in the citizens' hands.
Great. Thank you for that brief bio. That helps us move right along. Darren, do you want to go next?
Sure. And can you hear me just fine? Okay. I'm Darren Harbick, and I'm running for United States Senate. Born and raised here on the banks of the McKenzie River. 53 years old, have 3 children, been married for 32 years. And the reason I'm running for United States Senate is just because I'm frustrated with what I saw happen the last couple of years. First, I was frustrated with our state, and now I'm frustrated with our federal government. The overreach of the federal government, stopping me from and other business owners from doing what we've done our entire lives and taking over is just something I can't sit back and watch anymore. Watching the mismanagement of our natural resources from our federal forest, our borders out of control, the federal tsunami of spending. Again, I cannot sit back anymore. I served the school board for 14 years, Travel Lane County, on my Chamber of Commerce board. I've served community my whole entire life, coached high school, college basketball. And again, it's something that I'm in a time in my life where I can step up and say, I need to help Oregon. I need to help our nation. And that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you. And Chris.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. So my name is Chris Christensen. I'm a candidate for United States Senate here in 2022. I attended Chapman Elementary School right up the street from your office, and I've got a great story about the street between Chapman and Wallace Park. I'll tell you guys one day. Went to Chapman Elementary School, Lincoln High School, graduated from Jesuit High School in Washington County. Currently live in Washington County in the Beaverton area. I was the 2020 Congressional District GOP primary winner in Congressional District 1 for the Republican side. I have a family legacy. I'm a 5th generation Oregonian, but my great-great-grandfather was a congressman, and he fought for the 17th, what eventually became the 17th Amendment. What many people don't know is prior to that, senators were appointed by legislatures. So I'm here to run because I can, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. My #1 priority for the Portland metro area is I will see the I-5 bridge begin construction and start actually building the bridge.
That's a good way. Thank you. That's a good way to segue into the next question. I was going to ask #1 priority, but you've already answered that, Chris. So let's go to Darren.
#1 priority right now, I think, is shutting down our border and continuing to build the wall and stopping the tsunami of drugs coming across our southern border. Human trafficking, it's causing such a problem for Oregon right now. But yes, #1, there's more than one, but that's something that we need to get stopped right now on a federal level.
Can you describe what business you're in that got shut down during the pandemic? Sorry, I didn't follow up on that during the.
No, sorry about that. So our restaurant business, our motel suffered. And so all of our business, all business all over Oregon suffered, but the restaurant was the biggest one of mine currently that was shut down during the pandemic.
Thank you. Jason, number one priority.
So, I agree with Darren there, but there are tons of, well, not tons, but there are some main priorities I think all Republicans are going to look at. But my priority is one closer to home, and it's the water bureaucracy we have in Oregon, where all our water's tied down, and we can't. I'm sitting in Klamath Falls right now, and they have a lake that's completely full, and they can't use the water. So my focus locally for the state of Oregon is to help get rid of that bureaucracy and open up that water to usage for farmers and ranchers and for fish. And I have experience with this in Prineville, but I want to help out rural Oregon and help them with that, and take my experience and fight for them too.
Thank you. Have you, I'm going to ask you, have you all been in forums together? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I would ask you to each and we'll start with you, Jason. If you would each give us, we're just getting to know you, but if you would tell us one way in which you're different on the issues than your opponents.
Well, I think, there's differences. I'm not a business owner. I've always worked in the private sector, but it's hard for me to say because I don't know 100% what Darren or Chris, what their main focus is. But the one difference I have is as a mayor, I have a proven record of fighting for our local citizens. And I've done that through a few different resolutions. So that's a difference I can see, but we all have differences in reasons for running. So.
All right. Let's move to Chris. Can you just, are there issues that you think you have a different position on than your opponents?
Yeah, great question. I mean, the Oregon primary, being a close primary, is all about drawing distinctions between people that, for the most part, I agree with, people that I think are good people, but it's a contest that's going to ultimately only result in one person moving forward to the general election. So really two things, knowledge and experience. And I'm going to point to election integrity as the point that I want to really bring out, which is that our campaign advertising is compliant with FEC guidelines, which is a requirement under federal election laws. All of the other candidates have had a complaint filed against them because they simply aren't following or don't know the guidelines. And it just simply begs the question, if they can't run the campaign properly, how can you expect them as a voter to run the country properly? So while they're nice people, they're great people, they all need a little bit more experience, including myself. But as the winner of the 2020 Congressional Federal District election, I have some experience in federal elections, and you have to follow the guidelines, right? So the Federal Election Commission is investigating my claim for advertising campaign disclosure violations by all of the other candidates except myself.
And so what were their alleged violations?
Under a federal law, you have to have a disclosure that's clearly articulated, and it has to be in a box. Okay, it doesn't apply that way for a state election, but for a federal election, it must say paid for by clearly. And in some of my competitors, it's either completely missing or it's incorrect. So again, just inexperience is what I think the other folks have that I don't have, and my experience will lead me to a successful win in November against Ron Wyden.
Apart from the alleged violations about them running their campaigns, do you have any differences with them based on issues or policy apart from campaign spending?
Yeah, great question. Again, so being from the Portland area, I think I would characterize myself as the most moderate candidate. I'm not here to abolish any federal agencies. I'm not here to wipe out the Endangered Species Act. I'm here to work with what we have and move the ball forward for Oregon. I'm here to work for all of Oregon, both the metro area, the urban areas, and the rural areas. As a fifth generation Oregonian, I know the possibility this state has for our generation and future generations. And I just think as the most moderate candidate, I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to build consensus, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my values.
Thank you. Darren, do you want to distinguish yourself from the other candidates on the issues? And also if you want to address the elections complaint as well.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and again, on issues, Republican issues, we're pretty much all going to agree on the issues. So it's bigger than just issues at this point. It's who's the most credible candidate to win in November. Who has the staff ready to go after the primary May 17th, ready to take this to the next level. Again, Ron Wyden's got a treasure chest. We have to be able to match that and fund that. So far, we've outraised our entire congressional U.S. Senate race by 3-1. So it is going to take money to win this thing. I understand. I've been in business for 30 years. I understand what it takes. You can't do it by yourself. You have to surround yourself with people that can help you push this further. I listen to people. I've served people my entire life in the retail industry, coaching. I know what it's like to take care of people. I know what it's like to take care of Oregonians. I've lived here my entire life. My parents were grown and raised here. I've worked, and I know what it takes to work to make this work. FEC guidelines, yeah, we're fixing those issues. If we didn't put a box around paid for and authorized by Harvick campaign, those are all things that we're taking care of. Chris wants to bring those up. That's fine. But again, we're working on that. We have a team surrounding us to take care of all those issues that he brought up. It's not a big deal.
Do you want to abolish any federal agencies?
Well, one of them that being on the school board for 14 years, the Department of Education is something I really want to look at, be on that committee to see, do we really need that? It's an $80 billion institution the federal government's doing. We have to find ways to cut back spending. We cannot spend the way we're doing. So is that something I want to look at? You bet I do. Do I think we need it? At this point, without doing the research and stuff, I don't think we really need the Department of Education. It's more of a state's issue, and the federal government continues to overreach.
I'm going to ask this question of all of you. And you may have seen some of the questions we've asked the gubernatorial candidates, particularly the Republicans, but did Biden, and we'll start with you, Darren, did Biden legitimately win the presidential election, the last presidential election, yes or no?
Biden is our president currently. Do we see lots of anomalies in different states? Yes, we did. Do I know what to believe or what not to believe? No. That's up to the legislature to make those decisions in those states, not at the federal level.
So is that a yes?
Biden is our president, correct? Yes.
Jason, same question to you.
Well, I'm going to follow kind of along with what Darren says. Biden is the sitting president. Do I agree that there were anomalies? Yes, there were. There were some weird things. You don't shut down elections in the middle of the night and stop counting, and then all of a sudden, when the counting resumes, there's 2 million votes or 200, whatever it was in any state ahead. You know, there's some shady things. That voting was locked down. So is he legitimate? Probably, maybe not. But he is the sitting president. In your view, you're saying there's more anomalies this time than this past presidential election than in past elections? Like, and if so, what would you want to do about it? Well, for one, I do believe there were anomalies. There were some,
more than in other election cycles.
Oh, I think so. Yes.
Okay.
And I call me conspiracy theorist or not, but I believe they used COVID as a front to block people from going in and having that election integrity, where you have a Republican and a Democrat PCP standing there together, helping count the votes and making sure things are going right. There's tons of proof that voters, or that the PCPs were locked out, that people could not come in and watch the vote. And there's video of people recycling votes through the machines. Now, I don't know who those votes were for, but it doesn't matter if it was a Republican or Democrat, it shouldn't have been done. And to stop it, I'm kind of a firm believer that that's a state level, but I would support the state to go in and audit their entire voting system and go in and review everything. And for one, get rid of the machines and go back to hand counting. And I also am a very big advocate of voter ID. Okay.
And do you support Oregon's current election system?
So I did at one point, because I didn't see the effects of it until the last few elections. I've really started to question Oregon. I don't question our county. I live in Kirk County, and I've talked to Cheryl Seeley, our county clerk, and I've had her explain to me their process. I trust our process locally. Now, do I trust the process across the state? No. And so
not even with a Republican audit of the elections not so long ago.
I'm still not 100% sure. If there's even one fraudulent vote, one is one too many. And I don't care who it's for, one's too many. And I firmly believe we need to go back to in-person voting and do a hand count on everything.
All right. Got it. Thank you for sharing that. Chris, was back to that question of, is Biden the legitimately elected president of the United States?
So yes, he is. He was certified under our election system. So I'm going to say yes to that, but I wish he would represent all of the people. And I want to challenge Willamette Week on this, because this is a question that I'm really glad we have the opportunity to discuss. When I say represent all of the people, obviously there's a schism with the extreme right and the extreme left. A good candidate's going to find the middle ground and try to bring people together. Why? And this is a question for you guys, a rhetorical question. If you type in www.antifa.com, that directly links to the White House's website. That has happened for more than 2 years. And please explain to me, with all of our federal law resources, why they still allow that to occur, because that antagonizes people on the right. And that's why Joe Biden will never be accepted by all of the people. But yes, he's the president. At the local level, remember, I have experience as a congressional candidate in 2020. So I still have questions like, whatever happened to Stephen Trout? Was that ever investigated? No. We talk about the motor voter laws. We talk about sanctuary policies. They all play into voter election. But my dad, who is buried at the Pioneer Cemetery in Lane County, used to always say, it is what it is. Right. So I'm all about moving forward. I'm all about being positive. The 2020 is behind us. I'm looking forward to 2022 and what I can do for you and the rest of Oregon.
All right. So the next question will, I'm going to ask one more of the, oh, you know what, we're starting to run short on time. So let me give each of you 2 minutes to just say, basically argue for why voters should vote for you in this primary. Why don't we start with you, Chris?
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And to talk to your readers, and especially in Northwest Portland. Again, you guys are right down the street from where I grew up. Chapman Elementary School was an amazing experience for me, and it introduced me to a life in Oregon that I will always, for the rest of my life, cherish. I love Oregon. I want to be a part of Oregon's positive future. Again, I think I set myself apart as the most creative candidate, as the one who's willing to solve problems, not make problems, as someone who is the most moderate candidate. For the Portland metro area, my top priority, once Biden comes out and announces the funding, we're going to actually start turning dirt and we're going to build that I-5 bridge. I'm a sailor, I'm a boater, I know how important it is, but it's not just about building a bridge, right? Transportation, housing, infrastructure, they're all inexorably linked. And by building this single project, it will turn our region into an area of transportation and housing and opportunity for future generations that will be just a beginning, right? The genesis for what we need to positively change Oregon. That will affect our homeless issue, right? It will affect our housing issue. It will affect our business issue. It'll provide a positive incentive. And I think it's one of the most important projects for the state and the metro area. And I would ask anybody who's not affiliated or not registered as a Republican, they still have about 5 days to register with the Secretary of State as a Republican and vote Chris Christensen. If you want that bridge built, vote for Chris Christensen, register Republican. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Why don't we go to you, Jason?
Okay, well, something that I close on is that I have a proven record as a mayor of fighting for the people. I've had, we had businesses when they closed down. We looked at every avenue we could to help them open and to help them fight the OSHA related fines, which we had come to find out in my sitting in meetings with the governor that she wanted to hire more OSHA employees to go around and just look at businesses and try to write them fines. So I wanted to fight that. Our businesses were struggling in Prineville. Prineville does have a few larger businesses that weren't really affected, but our small mom and pops were affected. So we went after that and we found a loophole in there where OSHA was trying to find the businesses on anything they could see. We found that if the business was doing what they were supposed to do to mitigate the effects of COVID, that they cannot be fined. You cannot control what the customer does. And OSHA is not there to protect the customer. They're there to protect the business. So we fought that. We passed a resolution that said that, and we had a circuit court judge in Oregon validate. That's one thing I did for citizens. Another thing, they came to me, a lot of the local citizens and county residents for that matter, came and said, hey, we need to stop these mandates. And I said, well, I don't know if I have the power to stop them, but I will definitely work on a resolution that tells our governor that, hey, our people we're done. We're tired of putting up with this, and we shouldn't be forced into something and mandated to get vaccinated or wear masks. It should be freedom of choice. And I'm all for freedom of choice. And I passed a resolution for the citizens of Prineville. I also have a lot of experience working on major projects. We have a federal legislation that was passed for the city of Prineville by President Obama in 2013 that I was part of, that guarantees a certain amount of water out of our reservoir. I believe we're the only city in the United States that actually has that guarantee to mitigate the effects of water shortage. We have first fill rights, 5,100 acre feet, averages out to 1.66 billion gallons of water a year that we can use, and that we are currently now using because of that legislation. So I've been involved with some big projects. I've been in a lot of local projects that have helped mitigate wastewater treatment, a wetlands project that we put in that saved the city $60 million. There's a lot of things that I can see that I can take to other places in the state and that I have that experience in. And once I became mayor, I put the power back in the people's hands and asked everybody in Prineville, not just one group, what do you want from me as mayor? And I've done that. So that's what I want to offer the state of Oregon.
Thank you. And Darren.
Yeah, so I bring the real world experience to the United States Senate. I've been a worker. I've had to deal with the policies and the regulations that the Biden-Wyden administration is causing these last year and 3 months. We were energy independent a year and 3 months ago, and now we're fueling wars and we're fueling things. And we need to get back to those policies that we had. The federal forest in Oregon burning out of control every single year is a direct response of failed mismanagement policies from our federal government. That's Wyden. We have to look at what he's done to Oregon. For one thing, he doesn't live here. And that's frustrating for an Oregonian to be from Oregon, grew up here. When I'm your next United States Senator, yes, I have to go to Washington, D.C., but I will come back to Oregon every time I'm not there. I will be amongst the people. I'll be listening to the concerns. I will see what's going on. We have a campaign staff that's already built in. We're ready May 17th. When we win this primary, we are ready to go and take on Ron Wyden. We need a credible candidate that can win in November. And that's what I want to promise. I will do everything in my power. I know what it's like to work. I've done my entire life. This is work. And I've laid aside the things that right now, having a grandchild of 3 years ago, it's like, who's fighting for my grandchildren? I cannot continue to watch the Biden-Wyden agendas ruin not only Oregon, but this nation. We've got to secure our southern border. We've got to stop the spending that's out of control. And so that's what I will bring. I will bring a positive voice of change to Oregon. Listen, we need term limits. Wyden's been there for 41 years. It's time for a change. I want to create a new path for Oregon, and I'm ready to do that now. Thank you.
Thanks. And actually, there is one last fun question for us. This is a feature of Willamette Week. That's an old newspaper find. Willamette Week endorsement interviews. It is this year. It's what back to normal joy have you experienced as the pandemic has eased? Let's start with you, Darren.
What back to joy?
Back to normal, like back to 2019.
Well, I tell you what, I sure enjoy not wearing a mask every day and making my employees and forcing customers to do that in my businesses. So that's a joy I have right now is being free, that we are free people indeed.
Thank you. Jason?
Well, I agree with Darren, not having to wear a mask, but in that sense, I personally chose not to wear one the whole time, unless I had to. Now, I did wear a few times, and I do for the protection of others if they ask me to, but I just tried to avoid places that didn't. But I see, for me personally, the mask is great, but I see others in my community that are the same way. They're happy that they don't have to wear a mask.
So is there a personal moment where it felt different?
No, not yet. I'll tell you this, I have a vacation planned in the future that's going out of the country. And if I don't have to wear a mask on that, that's going to be my personal moment when I fly. So, and I'm excited to see what just passed, or a federal judge just did for the Transportation Security Administration. So, and airlines. But
All right. Thank you very much. Chris.
Well, I got to go with my colleagues. Everybody loves not wearing a mask. It really, again, it just goes to freedom, right? Which is all about what we're all about here today. So that's the biggest thing. When I was cooped up here, I picked up the accordion a little bit. So my goal here, in the spirit of bipartisanship, my sort of dream, as it were, would be to do a public concert with Pink Martini, and I can accompany Storm Large on my accordion, singing like Bésame Mucho or something. That would be bipartisanship. That's what I'm all about, representing all the people fairly, with no special privilege for anybody.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for participating. I really appreciate you coming, and our endorsements will be out a week from tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
thank you very much.
Great
Hey,
day.
Jake.